Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 117 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And this episode is going to be a solo episode. If you haven't already listened to episode 116, I really do hope that you guys go back and listen to that one. It was with our special guest, Dawn Michelle Hardy, and she talks all about how you can build your platform, secure a book deal, and get published. And whether you are interested in writing a book or not, Dawn just takes us through her career as a literary agent and some of the things that she has learned just by being an entrepreneur, by being a student of life. And I think there's a lot of insight that we can take away from that episode. Before we get into today's message, though, I want to just leave you guys with a few housekeeping notes. Remember, we are doing our giveaway of the week with Pinch Me. So if you want to sign up to get one of their free sample boxes, and they have loads of good stuff in that sample box, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/win. That's dreamsanddrive.com/win. I also encourage everyone to please join our Facebook group. I'm trying to, be more active on Facebook and just to get conversations going about each episode every week. So if you're interested in that, just search Dream Driver Mastermind on Facebook or just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook to enter. I also just want to say thank you to everybody who has been sharing these episodes on social media. I know with just episode 116 over the past 2 days, we've gotten so many Instagram shares, so many people tagging us. So if you want to share your listening experience with your own community, just take a screenshot of wherever you're listening to this and post to Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. We are Dreams and Drive across the board, and you can also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. And remember to hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this episode right now, so that you get updates every time we go live. So we have new episodes every Monday, and if I do a solo episode, those normally come out on Thursday. So I had been contemplating for a while what I should do a solo episode about, and I just didn't know. And then I got this email that I'm going to read to you guys, and all I got to say is you really never know who you're inspiring, who's getting your message, so you cannot give up. And this is why. So I got an email from a Dream Driver listener, Lakshmi, and her subject on the email was feeling the fear and still doing it. And this is what she said, and of course I'm reading this with her permission. Hello, Raina. My name is Lakshmi. I was born and raised in Paterson, New Jersey. Very proud. Well, the thought of writing this is a little scary for me. First, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Because of your podcast, I not only started my business, but I am doing pretty well. I started listening to your podcast about May 2017 when hubby and I were homeless, couch surfing with a 1-year-old. I was depressed, alone, and suicidal. Raina, we had nothing. Hubby was only working part-time at Crate and Barrel and going to school full-time. What I did is stayed home and care for our daughter. I had to humble myself and get WIC and food stamps, which was only $60 a month. Imagine being college educated and on government assistance, not being able to work because you've been out of work for medical reasons. The struggle was real and still is. However, things change, and it all started with your podcast. So I started listening in May 2017 between the hours of 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. That was my self-care time where I prayed, journaled, and cried. I did this every day for months when one morning I was listening to your podcast, episode 5, and it hit me, a business idea. Raina, let me say it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like my mind shifted and I was like, okay, I need to write this down, and I did. Well, I started to doubt and doubted. I would plead with God and say, yo, dude, what's the deal? I know you gave me this idea. What do you want me to do? And bam, your episode 2, how to start even if you don't feel ready. Raina, I heard that podcast and heaven opened. My sister called me that afternoon and said, Lakshmi, you have this gift, use it. My gifts are clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognizance, meaning I can look beyond the norm and give you an overview in your future self. People call it psychic. I don't like that label too much. So my sister just called and was like, look, I have a friend. Her grandmother passed. She needs you to connect with her. She will pay whatever. I remember charging her $20 and she was in awe. After that, Raina, I got on Facebook and started to advertise. And in a matter of a month, I made $5,000. When that happened, I did the happy dance. We were able to pay a lot of bills and go out and eat out. I got my website going. I started to really get it together. I not only did readings, I started doing spiritual coaching as well. This email is to show you how a simple podcast changed my life. Your podcast. Thanks so much. I'm in tears now because I not only wrote this, I was finally able to tell someone what I have been going through. I know one day I'll be able to stand tall, tell my story, and help women come out and do the same. Raina, you are a friend in my head, and my sister, thank you. I truly can't wait to see your growth. Lakshmi, the Urban Cosmic. This past week has really been a little trying for me. You know how you just go through these times where you just wonder, like, what am I doing this for? What's the purpose of everything? So when I got this email earlier this week or earlier last week, it just really hit me. I was like, wow, you never know who's looking up to you. You never know who's inspired by what you're doing, right? And I think sometimes we doubt what our purpose is when we may be living in our purpose right now, but because we're not really committed to it, it's just one of those things that we need an email like this. We need someone to open up. And I just want to say thank you so much, Lakshmi, for even emailing me and for allowing me to share your story, because I think it's going to motivate someone else that there are signs that you are walking in your purpose, but sometimes we ignore them, right? And I read this to one of my coworkers, and he was just like, what are you going to do with this? And I said to him, I said, what do you mean? What am I going to do with this? And he said, what are you going to do with this? And I didn't even know there was something that I needed to do with it. I just said, well, I'm going to respond to her. And he looked at me, he said, what are you going to do with this? And that has been something that has been really sitting with me for the past few days. What do you do with the impact that you have on other people? How are you going to take your ability to impact others and create something of it? So I said to him, well, I'm going to continue to do the podcast. And he just said to me, what are you going to do with that? And he told me to think about it. And I've been thinking about it. And I felt like when I was thinking about what I should do a solo episode on, this was the exact topic. Like, what are we going to do with this fact that we can't keep stopping, right? We can't give up on what it is that we're building, what it is that our visions, because there's someone out there who is looking up to you. You're inspiring someone, and you may never know. And sometimes we don't need to know who we're inspiring, but we have to know that there is someone out there who needs the message that you're putting out there. And I remember being in first grade, and I'll never forget her name, Miss Tyndall, one of my first grade teachers. I remember telling her about how I was in a car accident, how I had a fractured skull, and, how everyone used to tell me my head was sensitive, so I had to make sure that I didn't bump it or anything like that. And she just said to me, Raina, that's why you're special. You're special because of that car accident. And I just will always remember her telling me that I was special in first grade. And you think you don't always remember everything, but I'll never forget that. And just remembering that we each have something in us that is unique, that is special, that is tied to our purpose, and it's going to come out. And I think I talked about this in other episodes, and I'll continue to talk about this, is the whole fact that my life almost ended in a car. When I was a baby, I was in a very terrible car accident that left me with a fractured skull, left my mother in a coma for 6 weeks. We had to both learn how to walk again, how to write again. Well, she had to learn how to write again. I had to learn how to do everything again because I was almost a year old, and I kind of got set back in my development. But it's crazy how a car almost killed me, but now it's that car that is the theme for my life and how I'm able to change other people's lives. I want to just keep telling you guys, if you are on the verge of giving up on yourself this week, if you are on the verge of stopping what you're doing because you're not seeing the results yet, remember that there's someone out there who needs what you're creating. And it might just be one person right now. It might just be one person who's reading your blog, who can't respond, who doesn't have the courage yet to write that email as Lakshmi did. But remember, Lakshmi's journey was many months, right? She started listening in May 2017, and it is now November. That's 6 months. It may not be that person's 6 months yet to reach out to you. So you have to keep going the course. You really have to keep going the course. I think sometimes we get nervous, right? Sometimes we feel like succumbing to these feelings of doubt, of fear. And we really can't, because I'm going to keep saying this to you. A lot of you might think that I'm talking too much, I'm being repetitive, but I'm being repetitive for a reason, because when we have to convince ourselves, we have to be repetitive. When we have to learn something, we have to be repetitive. Have you ever had a lesson that it took you a long time to learn because the same things kept happening? You kept getting the same knocks in your head because you didn't learn it the first time you were supposed to learn it? Someone listening to this right now needs to hear this. Out of all you thousands of listeners I get every month, someone out here was going to quit today. Someone out here doubted themselves today. But you have to continuously and repetitively tell yourself that you cannot give up. You cannot give up. You have to be consistent, not even with just doing. You have to be consistent in believing. Be consistent with believing in yourself. And even if that means you got to fake it till you make it, even if that means you have to look in the mirror every morning and say, hey, I'm going to make it today, do it. Because eventually you're going to start believing it, even if you don't believe it now. I have 5 tips that I want to share with you all just about why this is so important and what you can do when you feel like giving up. Number 1, remember why you started, right? Remember why you started this. Remember that. And I think for me, those times when I'm just confused about the future of Dreams and Drive, I remember like it all coming together. Me having done all these interviews through college and post-college, and then stumbling upon that no parking sign in the Checkers parking lot, and the term Dreams and Drive just coming to me. It all made sense, and I wasn't even looking for it, right? I started because I really had this calling, and it's a theme that people have been telling me for my entire life, that I'm a good interviewer, I ask good questions, I'm very in tune with listening to people and telling other people's stories. There are reasons why we're giving gifts, and I think for me, remembering that this is a gift that isn't going away. No matter what I do, I keep coming back to storytelling in every part of my life. That, to me, is just something I remember when I'm feeling low, right? Number 2 is remember your progress. I didn't always start out having as many listeners as I have now, having as many followers on social media. Back when I started in January 2016, I used to get maybe 50, maybe 100 downloads an episode, and I thought that was popping. Progress. I think sometimes when we feel like giving up, we don't ever stop to think about how far we have come. Because right now I could say, hey, I'm going to give up. I get over 20,000 downloads a month. But there was a time when I wasn't even getting 1,000 downloads a month, and I didn't want to give up then. So why is it that I want to give up now, right? Sometimes with progress, we want to see the best progress, but that's not really what it's about, right? We are in our best progress. We are progressing the way that we should. And if you can take that time to pause about where you've come from, you'll be so excited about where you're going, because you'll realize that the best is yet to come. So how could you give up on yourself now? How could you give up on all those people who are rooting for you and want to see you succeed? Number 3, remember the dream. For me, when I was a kid, I always had these dreams of meeting Oprah. I used to write her letters. I always, my dad used to tell me to write her, to tell her to expand our elementary school because it was way too small. And he said, write a letter to Oprah. Maybe she'll send money to the school. And I remember believing in that and writing her these letters, not knowing if she ever got them. And my dream when I was younger and as a kid was to be this master storyteller of some kind. I always used to want to have my own show. And I think I kind of suppressed those thoughts and did other things as the years went on. Like, I did a lot of acting. I did a lot of behind the scenes. I did dancing in college. But at the very end of it, I kind of always wanted to be the curator of these stories and talk to people and show people and show other people how others were able to make it. And that has just been a dream of mine that I think off and on I have forgotten about. But remember that childlike dream. And if you guys think about your favorite episode on the show, or if this is your first episode, I do encourage you to go back and listen to others. Most of our guests had these childlike dreams and have these childlike interests and passion. And it's always interesting to see how those passions evolved over time. I know for me, I used to be the ultimate hustler. I was selling bookmarks. I was doing all this stuff, right? And now it's like I get to hustle with dreams and drive. There were people who, I think one of our guests, Dawn, she wanted to be a nurse. That didn't necessarily manifest the way that she thought it would be, but through her products, Puka Pure and Simple, she was able to help people nurse themselves back to health by taking better care of what they were putting onto their skin and into their bodies. So that dream that you've had as a child will manifest itself in some form later on in your life. And I think that's why it's so important to, when we're stuck, to go back and think about what was inspiring you back then, because those are your purest forms of inspiration, right? I think as children, we were just so, We were just so innocent. Our dreams were so innocent and so pure. That's why looking at them can be really great indicators to when we're stuck now in our adult lives. Number 4, remember who's rooting for you, silently or overtly. You will have a lot of people in your life who are rooting for you that you'll never, ever hear from. There's going to be a lot of people in your life who you're never going to hear a congratulations, who you're never going to hear I'm proud of you, who you're never going to hear, wow, I love that episode that you put out. But you cannot think just because you're not hearing from someone, they're not being affected by what you're doing. And there are going to be people who are overtly sending you praise and who are overtly rooting for you and who are telling you that every day. And when you're feeling low, remember that there's someone out there, as I said over and over in this episode, there's somebody out there who needs what you are saying. That's why you cannot give up on yourself. You really can't. Whether it be your mother, your father, your boyfriend, your sister, your cousin, your auntie, your uncle, your co-worker, somebody out there is affected by what you do. And if that's not reason enough to not give up on yourself, then I don't know what to tell you, right? And I think giving up on yourself versus pivoting are two different things. Now, there may be a time in your business or your dream or your brand that you may have to pivot, that you may realize the dream is not manifesting the way you might thought, or you may realize that the idea you have needs to be tweaked a little bit so that you can reach more people, or so that if you want it to be a business, it can be sustainable. So don't confuse pivots with giving up on yourself, or don't confuse having to pivot and tweak the execution of the dream as it not working. Right? Because you have to remember, as I said, remember why you started, remember the progress you've made, remember the initial dream, and remember who's rooting for you. And I'm going to repeat this again, is number 5, remember the little you. This might sound cheesy, this might sound corny, but would the little you, like I ask myself a lot, would little Raina be proud of what big Raina's doing today? And I think little Raina would be proud. And she would say, Raina, all that time you used to spend writing talks. I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and they would call, Sunday sermons, as you would say, talks. I used to write talks all the time. And the people who gave talks were normally males. And I used to go home and write my own talks. I wish I could find them because they were very interesting. I used to do my research in the Bible and pull up quotes and use an index and find words and all this stuff. And I would write these talks out on paper and just deliver them to my teddy bears. And that was just something that I always loved to do. I was out here producing music records with my friends and starting companies, baking cookies and selling them door to door to my neighbors. Little Raina would be so proud of what big Raina is doing today. So that's why I think when I'm stuck and when I'm low, I think about that little me. And I think about just how she would have responded if she got that email from Lakshmi. She would have said, see, I told you, Raina. See, I told you. It all makes sense. Or just earlier today, I had the opportunity to interview a woman called Dashita Dawson, which you guys will hear from on a future episode on the show. She talks about how she was trying to figure out how her going to medical school and dropping out, what the importance of that was going to be later in her life. And in the episode, we talk about her evolution or her transition and how she finally realized how that molecular biology background and how that medical school background has played a significant factor in what she's doing today in the cannabis industry. So definitely look out for that episode. There's going to be days when you're just going to be low, when you're just going to need to be in bed for the whole day and sulk and whatever. But you have to tell yourself that you got this. And you have to tell yourself that even when you don't believe it, because the continuously telling yourself that, you're going to start to believe it. And even if you don't got it today, telling yourself that tomorrow will be a new day to go get that is so, so important. I said this in episode 220 of Support is Sexy. Elaine Fluker, I love that podcast. I was on her I was on the show, episode 220, and I was just scrolling through my screenshots, and she did a quote from the episode and had shared it a while back, and I screenshot it, and the quote that I said was, "The biggest enemy we'll face at times is ourselves, but you can't give up on yourself. You may pause, you may have to take a break, but don't ever park yourself. Other people may give up on you, but you can't give up on yourself." And if there's nothing you guys take from this episode, it's the fact that I just want you guys all to say it. I cannot give up on myself. I'm going to pause. Say it right now. I cannot give up on myself. Being a dream driver is exactly just that, right? It's not a dream pauser. It's not a dream parker. We're not a dream neutraler. We're a dream driver. And the whole act of driving is continuously being in motion. Now, as part of a drive, you may pause, but that's not going to be the dominant part of your journey. And I think if you remember during those times when you feel like giving up that you're a dream driver, that you'll always have gas in your tank, that under your hood may not always be in the best shape, but you'll be willing to fix it and go to a mechanic if you need to. You got to tell yourself this, right? You really, really got to tell yourself, because it's hard out here in 2017. It's going to be hard out here in 2018, but what's not going to be hard is you believing in yourself. And that's something that we all can practice more of. And they say in entrepreneurship and building a brand, you're going to have to take time to build those tactical things, the things that aren't so sexy. But I'm a big believer, and I even just think about my own journey, like on my blog, RainaCampbell.com, I used to talk about building a professional and personal brand. I've always been a big believer in taking care of both parts of ourselves, right? That personal part, that personal development, that personal care is going to be crucial to where you're going with whatever it is that you're trying to build. So yeah, this episode is just a real feel good, just another reminder that you cannot give up on yourself. I probably said this like 20,000 times, but they say the best teacher is repetition. The best teacher is repetition. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that little mini message today. And I want to hear from you. What are some ways that you encourage yourself on those times when you feel like giving up? If you want to hit me up and tell me that on social media by sending a tweet or Instagram story or a Facebook message, whatever it is, we are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. And I'll repost it and I'll share in my own pages. I would love to hear from you all. I really would, because I think a lot of times we need that encouragement and we need to see how others have done it. That's why each week talking to these guests has been so amazing for me, because I'm just able to get encouragement and know that other people's stories are not always linear. No one has it perfect, but we're still here now and we have a story. And just the ability to share that with others is what I think we all need to do more of. All right, so that's all I really have to say today. As always, if you love this episode, please share it with a friend. All you got to do is take a little screenshot and post it to Instagram, send it via a text. I love it when you guys subscribe. So wherever you're listening, whether it be Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Overcast, wherever, please hit that subscribe button so every time we have a new episode, you are notified. And I would also love if you're on Apple Podcasts in particular to leave us a review. Reviews really help other people learn about the show. Dream Drivers, I would love to read yours on a future episode. So just go into Apple Podcasts, leave a review, leave a 5-star rating. It really does help us at the end of the day. If you are not already part of our Dream Driver Facebook group, please go ahead and sign up. Just go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook, or you can just search Dream Driver Mastermind the next time you are on Facebook, which if you're like any other person, you're probably on Facebook every single day. Last but not least, show notes are available as always at dreamsanddrive.com, and just click on episode 117. I can't wait for you guys to hear our 118 guest, Aaliyah Janelle. If you have not already seen her work online, she is an amazing choreographer and dancer. And I was able to talk to her about her own dream driving journey and just building this career and going viral within a year. She started 2017 at around 10,000 followers on Instagram. And to date, she has over 660,000 followers on Instagram. So we'll just hear her growth story and what she's building with her brand, Queens and Lettos. Do not give up on yourself. The picture that just popped into my head that I want to get to you guys is this picture of two diggers. And you can see they've been digging for a long time. And there's a diamond on the other side of the dirt, right? And one of the people gave up before he even reached the diamond. And he was right there. And then the other person kept digging. And it's inferred through the photo that that person, because he didn't give up, was going to get that diamond. Don't miss your diamond because you're going to give up on yourself too early. Don't miss the diamond. And remember that sometimes the diamond won't come fast. And if it comes fast, you have to ask yourself, do you really want it to come that fast? Because there is so much growth in being on a journey. There's so much growth in that. And I'm going to end with something that I posted on social media that I think is a great message I want to share with you all. And it's, too many people get caught up trying to be perfect straight from the beginning and miss out on all the learning they can do on their way to perfection. All right, keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 118. Bye, guys.